Hey guys, the sun is setting and I've spent pretty much the entire day checking out the Gocycle GS. This is their more affordable, most recent version. It was launched on Kickstarter in late 2017. That's also when the G3 was launched, and you can tell the G3 because it has this really cool light bar up front and kind of a Knight Rider LED thing on front. This one, you have to use your mobile phone with their app, but it's actually pretty cool. I'm going to go into that later. It does have a little trigger throttle option, depends on the geography you're in, but otherwise it's got the torque sensing pedal assist, which also measures your pedal cadence and the rear wheel speed. There are just tons of videos online on the Gocycle website. They've got like a great Vimeo and YouTube channel that show you how to fold it and unfold it and install the accessories and stuff. And my experience was that this took some time, and there was some screwing around. Even though they have the pit stop, like quick wheel setup down here, it's you just want to be careful not to touch those disc brake rotors, or the oils from your fingers can get on the pads and kind of contaminate them. Really cool though. These things are just solid, and they give you excellent efficiency, like power transfer. It's a 60 millimeter connection point rather than like a 15 millimeter through axle or a 9 millimeter skewer. And apparently, I was speaking with the founder of the company, Richard Thorpe. He was saying, yeah, you know, these help to set the land speed record for human-powered vehicles. They really love our tires and our magnesium wheels because they're just so fast, right? And, you know, magnesium is going to be tougher than spokes. They can come loose and stuff. They're going to be a little bit less forgiving. Spokes can flex, and they're also lightweight. Spokes are great for lightweight. This bike's like 36 pounds. It's pretty good for an electric bike, but it's still not, you know, 20 pounds. So there's some lifting and stuff, especially when you're folding it. It's just trying to get that down. So rather than show you and repeat what they've already done on their great video on the YouTube and on the Vimeo, I'm just going to focus on my experience with this bike and talk about, you know, what was like unboxing it, how it rides. The interesting thing about this is it does not come with this rear rack stock. Has a nice integrated light there. I love that, and big reflectors on it. It does not come with the headlight. I had to install those both myself, but it went pretty well. The headlight's pretty nice. You know, it's adjustable, but it's also mounted to an aluminum arm. It's got an on-off switch here, so when you turn it on, the rear light actually activates as well. So it is a manual press. It's not something that you have a control pad up here to utilize. I love the rubber cuff, but you know, you can hide some of the wires and stuff in there. This is also where you would attach the front fender, or as they call it, the mudguard. And then back here, I had to take out the original cuff, which is sort of like, it's in the seat clamp area, but actually the clamp itself is down here with this little spinner. I think that's an optional one. Otherwise, you're gonna have to use the hex wrench to tighten that down, just as you would to raise and lower the seat post. So it's fantastic the way that the rack connects, and then it's got a little support arm down here. There are these different plugs for whichever light you're using. You can use the quick release here to remove the rack easily and then plug in this traditional light, or you can use the rack integrated light. Really nice. This is a Bush & Mueller Top Light X5, just beautiful light, bigger reflectors and stuff. And then we've got these oversized pannier hangers. I asked them, you know, well, can these fit the standard clip-on size? And they said yes, most of the time they can. We recommend Ortlieb panniers, and then they're going to be able to lock into this rail so they won't flop around too much. They shouldn't make contact with the tire, and it's relatively sprung because of this little shock right here. Again, just, you know, about an inch of travel, but you've also got the tire here giving you some vibration dampening. So for a folding electric bike, pretty nice option here, this rear rack. And then when I turn on that headlight, again, I got it, you can see it on the wall, and then there's the rear. And overall, the ride experience is that this thing is approachable, easy to stand over, relatively low standover height here. People of all different sizes can use it because it has this kind of unique, like, veganomics is what they call it. So see how that seat tube down here is sort of angled back? So the higher the saddle goes, you get better leg extension, but you also increase the reach, and taller people tend to have longer arms, so it sort of works out, and you can slide the saddle forward and back. They do have a shorter, like, seat post insert for people who are shorter and they just, you know, this is maybe too high. You could lower the saddle to about there. Seems like they have an answer for everything. They have tons of accessories, a really cool, like, front bag, front pannier, the rack, which works with Ortlieb panniers that clip on right there. They've got like an ABUS lock holster for the side of the frame. No bottle cage bosses on this, but, you know, most folding bikes, you do make some compromises here. You got two different frame color choices. There's the white or gray, along with a bunch of different clean drive casings. So that's this right here. Really interesting. The chain is completely housed inside. And then we've got a 3-speed Shimano Nexus internally geared hub in the rear. So it's very clean. Like, no dust or water can really get into there and then touch your pant leg while you're pedaling. And of course, yes, they do sell fenders as well, optional. It really starts to add up. At $27.99, this isn't like the cheapest electric bike to start with, but it's a lot more affordable than some of their earlier models, G1, 2, and 3. These guys have been around since 2002. That's when Richard Thorpe, the founder, left McLaren to start an e-bike company, and then it took a little while to kind of get funding, get everything sorted out. 2009, they launched the G1, and then it was like 2012, the G2, and things sort of changed, and then 2017, the G3. A lot of the parts are backwards compatible. You can even get a replacement battery, and the battery's inside the frame. So this thing is beautiful. You can hardly tell it's an electric bike. I mean, the motor is right up here, up to 500 watt output. You know, it kind of depends, though, on your geography. When you set up the app, it asks you, like, okay, you know, where are you from? And it might be 250 watt nominal if you're in Europe, just to comply with their legal you know, speed limits and stuff. And then that whole throttle button I was talking about, either it will just help open up assist and make it a little bit more zippy, or it actually works like a throttle. If you're in the United States, you can use it without pedaling, but the bike does have to be going about 4 miles per hour, 6 kilometers per hour before that will activate. So there's a real mix of features here, and I was excited to do this at night because you can see how awesome those reflective sidewalls are on the tires, and then the headlight, I like that, has a little cutout on the side. So again, there are optional things that are on this bike that you're going to have to pay extra for, but I think it does come with the kickstand. Pretty nice. You can see that thing. It's right down there, double leg. It stows forward, like just like that, stays out of the way when you're riding, doesn't rattle around a whole lot. And again, people might not even notice that this is an electric bike. The battery pack is just under 300 watt hours, so, you know, depending on your speed and how much you're using the throttle, you could actually, you know, use the battery up fairly quickly. And it comes with a 2-amp charger, but they also sell a 4-amp charger that's going to be a lot faster. So it's the difference between a 7-hour refill and maybe a 3.5-hour refill if you completely drained it, which you don't want to do. The best idea would be to keep this thing in a cool, dry location, away from the extreme heat and extreme cold. But because it's so portable and they have that little case option, you could fold it all up and put it in a bag. It's easy to take it inside, and, you know, it might get a little bit dusty, but the frame, you know, they've got like these nice, this is not a shock, that's actually like a dust cover, and then a single sided fork, right? Because they've got that bigger attachment point, the 60 millimeters I was talking about. There's just a lot here. Even the stem can kind of tip forward or back. This one does not telescope up and down. That's something that only the G3 has, the more expensive version, but still that changes your reach a little bit. And then you've got the sliders here, the rails on the saddle. You could bring it forward or back. My dad tried this, and he's a bit bigger and like taller and heavier than I am, and he thought, yeah, it's pretty comfortable. But right away he did notice, you know, with the smaller wheels, the 20-inch wheels, they're just not, it feels a little bit more squirrely. I was able to ride this with no hands, but it took some doing. Like, there, you know, it took a little bit more balance. I noticed even when I turned and leaned the bike, there was a bit of it kind of grabs a little bit as you're turning. These are higher volume tires, which I definitely appreciate because they give you some comfort. And the PSI range is 35 to 60. And, you know, speaking with Richard on the phone earlier, he was like, you know, the front tire, take it down to like 35 or 40 because it acts as a bit of a suspension up front. There actually is a suspension in the rear. It's right here. It's just like an inch of kind of give, like a rubber bumper. More or less. And then the rear wheel, because a lot of your body weight is sort of back here, and especially if you have that rack loaded up, that one, raise it up a little bit. Maybe that's like 55 or 60, depending on your body weight and stuff. So some of this is comfort, some of it's efficiency and optimizing your range. And I don't know, you know, depending on where you live, this thing is lightweight. It looks really cool. It's going to stay clean. And it's got a pretty good warranty. It's like 3 years. I think the battery's only 1 year, but they've been in business for over a decade at this point, and they still stock a lot of the parts, and you can actually replace the battery. Even though it's not removable, you are going to have to take this thing inside and, you know, get it near a charger, plug it in down here, and there's this little 4 LED readout. You can see that when you press it. That's giving me some feedback on how full the battery is. And of course, we also have the awesome app up here, which gives us average speed, trip distance, a little bit of power output, me pedaling versus the motor, and then speed in the middle, battery percentage, much more precise than just 5 or 10 bars. And then you can select your ride mode down here. So there's a lot you can do, but you kind of need that app to set things up. But once you've got that, you can actually just turn that off, maybe stow it in your backpack, or completely disconnect it, and then which again, you can sort of override the efficient assist with that little button here. And technically it's not a throttle. It basically just like ups the juice in pedal assist mode. So that's a really unique way that they're able to get around the whole class 1 sensitivity. If you're in Europe, you can, you got to climb a hill or go zip up to catch someone real quick. You press that button and it just unlocks it unlocks the pedal assist to be a little bit more powerful. So I'm gonna boot this back up here. There we go. And because the phone's kind of tipped, if you tip it down like that, it gives you that dashboard. And then, the handlebar here, it's aluminum alloy. It's got a flat portion, so it keeps the display looking towards you. It looks really nice right now because it's bright. But earlier in the day, it was bright out, and I was getting some glare, and it was hard to see. So you're kind of getting the optimal on-camera experience right now, but there are definitely some compromises to be had. Okay, we're ready to ride. You can see it's actually kind of difficult to see my display because I have the brightness turned down a little bit, and there's that potential for glare. I want to mention that select mode is just, it's right there, real easy to touch. You probably have to take your hand off the grip to reach it, but you can see the display seems to be doing okay. Maybe a little bit of shake in there. You go over bumps just because it's connected with those rubber bands. And I was a little bit concerned about my phone here because sometimes in the heat, it's not great to have the sun shining directly on it. The phone can overheat, or if you get a call or whatever. You're also using the LCD and Bluetooth the whole time, and there's no charging port to tap into with this bike. And again, the battery, it's a relatively low capacity for e-bikes. It's an efficient system, but the point being, what do you do? It'd be nice if you could, maybe you're someone who gets a little phone backpack. You've got the little case with additional capacity so you can get your phone going further. I'm kind of mixed on this, and so I really like that you can actually turn off the display and the bike will still work. So, I can start to pedal along again. Kicks right on. I'm using the throttle. Even though my phone is gone dark, it still enables me to use the bicycle, and I really appreciate that. I think I might be the kind of person who sets it up once, puts my phone in my backpack, and then just turns it off and focus on the road and keep those handlebars clean and clear. So I've stepped out of the sun back to this corner here where it's a little bit easier to see my mobile phone. I wanted to walk you through the app. This is new to me. Really fancy, actually. You first go in, enable Bluetooth, search for the bike. I had to turn on the bike, press the little button down there. I found it, paired with it. Then I launched the app, the Gocycle app, and it finds the bike. Okay, there's the serial number, which matches the number right there. And I connect. I've already gone through the setup process, but I want to tell you about this. There are 15 steps when you hit setup, and it just, it's giving you all kinds of warnings. Each step has a little video short that kind of walks you through, and it's like, make sure you take care of the battery, and here's how you do it. It was interesting. I'm definitely spending more time on this review than I usually do because you've got this fancier interface. But once you get it set up, it's pretty fantastic. So here we are. This is the bike. It says 90% on the battery. That's fantastic. Much better than just like 5 or even 10 ticks to have a percentage. And then we've got this dashboard here. So it says average speed, calories burned, trip distance, odometer, average power in watts, and then equivalent MPG as if you were driving a car or something. I asked Richard, do you have like a heart rate monitor or Ant Plus interface? He said no, it's just using information from the bike. Then we went up here into settings, and there's a bunch of different stuff here that we can mess around with. So like bike name, units of measurement. I want to take this over to miles per hour. Okay, we just do that down there. That's what I'm used to. Trip distance, odometer, calories burned. So you can reset all of the different trip stats in here, which is very nice. And then display stats when rotated. That's, when you rotate this, it turns into the interface mode. So it gets rid of the settings icons and stuff. It utilizes the real estate very well. I'm gonna keep the rotation set as is. So I think that's kind of it. I'm gonna go back to the home page, and I'm going to click on more stats here. This is really cool. You can enable or disable different readouts. So back here at the main menu, we can sort of change what shows up and customize it for our preferences, and I think that's just fantastic. There's a lot. Cadence, that's something I care about. Let's see, we've disabled odometer, average watts, max speed. Okay, that's one that we have enabled, max cadence. There's so much here. It's a lot to appreciate. And then on this select mode screen, this is kind of cool. This is where you can dial in custom. That's what we're set up as right now, and we can, change the required effort when you're pedaling. So 170 watts for motor to start, or just 0, as soon as you start pedaling. This is a mix of cadence sensor, rear wheel sensor, and torque sensor. So it's fairly dynamic, and the custom screen is fun. By default, Eco, that's the most efficient. And then they have City and City Plus. So you can see the profile sort of change. And on Eco, you have to push a little bit harder for it to start. On City, it starts up right away. It's a little bit more zippy. You might want to, have that support right off the bat when you're pulling away from a light. And then down here, advanced settings. This is really cool. So is pedaling required for motor assistance? That's the trigger throttle right there. No, I want it to just activate at any time. And I say that with a grain of salt, because you actually have to be moving about 4 miles per hour before it'll activate anyway, about 6 kilometers per hour. So, you do still have to be moving. This isn't throttle on demand completely, but you can enable it, and that changes this from a Class 1 electric bike to Class 2, which, may or may not be legal depending on your geography and the terrain, whether you're on a bike path or a trail. So I'm going to say sync to Gocycle. Okay, so I think we're good. And then, you tilt the display, see how it changes, and we've got this really cool dashboard with a bigger speed indicator in the middle. That's fantastic. I'm just going to mount that up and take a little ride. Another cool feature with the app is that it's sort of connected to your bike. So once you've installed all the software and stuff, if your bike goes missing, you can contact Gocycle and they'll just disable that bike remotely. And that's one way that they can help in the recovery of these things. Yeah, feeling pretty comfortable on this nice smooth pavement, and there's that rear shock. Pretty satisfying, but I do know, I can feel that I'm on, a smaller bike, that the wheels and stuff, it's just a little bit more squirrely. Very tight, but squirrely. And that front fork is aluminum alloy. It's not carbon fiber or anything, so there's not really a vibration dampening quality. But one thing about a lot of the more traditional, like fold-in-half bikes, is that they feel, there's a little bit more frame flex, whereas this one's rigid. It feels very tight when you ride it. It feels responsive. And I definitely appreciate that. I like that a lot. Pedal assist feels pretty responsive, but there's a little bit of a delay, like when I start, and it's pretty, right now I'm in City Plus, which is kind of the highest level, but if I just pedal a little bit, yeah, it just activates a little bit. Okay, and that time I pedaled harder, and I got pretty much full power up to 32 kilometers per hour, 20 miles per hour, because I'm in the United States right now. And then it cut off. So that was the top speed, and I was still able to pedal beyond that. There's no drag, it does freewheel. There's a little bit of noise produced up at that motor. I asked Richard about that, and he said, well, the motor, it's got like 4 times the energy density output of a lot of traditional motors that are bigger and heavier. So it's like, you know, we did our best, but yeah, you can hear it a little bit. And it gets quieter over time, apparently, because there's like a rubber washer in there that after a couple hundred miles, he's like, you know, it smooths out a little bit. So that's kind of cool. Feels a little bit more squirrely riding with no hands on this thing just because of the smaller wheel diameter. And it's got a lower attack angle, so when you do hit like a bump or a curb, it doesn't quite span those cracks and things. It just kind of, yeah, kind of bonks over them. Brakes just work really well. Smooth, quiet, very nice. You know, the thing about hydraulic disc brakes is that the levers are just so much easier to pull, and both the left and right lever feel very consistent. It's not like the right lever is harder to pull because it has a long cable that's stretching and stuff. Hydraulic fluid is just, it's instantaneous, and these levers can be adjusted and brought in a little bit. But just high quality stuff, high quality hardware here. A lot of the stuff on this bike is custom, even the little plastic clips. And, you know, as I was going over this thing and installing some of the racks and stuff, I really came away impressed. Like, they've, you know, again, the guy making cars at McLaren, that's a pretty custom automotive group. And then bringing that experience here to an e-bike is just phenomenal. And there you go. You can really see the light now that it's starting to get dark out. Casts a pretty good beam. I'm definitely a fan. These are Bush and Mueller lights. Just gonna do some gear shifting here. There we go. Down in 2. And go ahead and bring it up to 3. Yeah, a lot more comfortable as you reach those higher top speeds. And the great thing is, you know, if I'm in the high gear and I have to come to a stop, maybe there's a stop sign or something, you know, it's going to be a bit of a struggle to get going again, but you can pretty much shift at standstill. So I'm going to do that. Take it down to 1. Okay. Let's see here. And yeah, there we go. Got that much easier cadence to start. So I like that. And just how clean and durable that is. You know, with a folding electric bike, you might pack this thing up and put it in the trunk of your car or a boat or a plane, and it could get jostled around a little bit, especially if you don't get their bag option. So, you know, having a completely protected and sealed off drivetrain, I think makes a lot of sense. Well, guys, I think that's about it. It's been a lot of fun riding around, exploring this thing all day long, getting some feedback from the family, and talking to the founder. I definitely want to do a shout out and thank Richard Thorpe for his time. I have reviewed the other Gocycles. I didn't get to spend as much time with them as I did with this one. They have a similar ride feel. It's just some of the options, like, you know, do you want to use your phone only, or are you into the LED thing? You want the light bar? Do you want the telescoping stem? In some cases, you know, I am reaching forward and down a little bit here. If this was able to come up a little bit, it might feel different. But just, you know, I'm 5'9", I'm 135 pounds, so I'm not an especially large rider anyway. I feel like it's worked out great, but of course I welcome your feedback. If you own one of these and you have any insights that maybe I missed, please share in the comments. Of course, have fun out there and ride safe.